Tonight, the NHS challenge facing the new Health Secretary. Despite more staff and more money than ever before, fewer people are being treated.
Also making the headlines, the Auld Alliance is back. As Scotland prepare for their next Six Nations game, the French fancy their chances.
Because we are better. Yeah, better than the Scottish.
Sure.
Oh, for sure.
Going underground, an exclusive look behind the scenes of Glasgow's subway as new trains take to the tracks.
And Scotland's Chinese community are all fired up for the Year of the Dragon. I'm Courtney Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. One day into his new job, the Health Secretary was given a stark reminder of the scale of the challenge facing him. A report from an economic research body shows the NHS is treating fewer patients than before the COVID pandemic. That's despite an increase in funding and staff.
Neil Gray has taken over the job following the resignation of Michael Matheson yesterday. He stood down after racking up a bill of almost £11,000 on his parliamentary iPad. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
A new cabinet, a new health secretary, but familiar issues facing the NHS. In his first full day in the role, Neil Gray was given a reminder of the challenges ahead. A report by an economic think tank found the health service has still failed to recover fully from dealing with COVID.
What the pandemic did was it compounded years of underinvestment and understaffing. And to be fair, the staff have never had a break. It's continued on, so it went from dealing with the pandemic to dealing with waiting, the kind of waiting lists that were caused because of the pandemic and people unable to get care, and that's contributed to currently a system that's under huge pressure.
Between April and June last year, the NHS handled fewer emergency admissions, treated fewer elective day patients, and handled fewer outpatient appointments. It also saw a drop in elective inpatient admissions since before the pandemic. That's despite an increase in health spending per person and a rise in the number of consultants, junior doctors and nurses.
Now, Michael Matheson may have resigned, but there are still serious questions for Humza Yousaf to answer on this issue.
Opposition parties continue to apply pressure on the First Minister following yesterday's resignation. This morning, the Conservatives set out their plans for the NHS, including 1,000 more GPs across Scotland. Proposals they hope the new Health Secretary will take on board.
Humza Yousaf wrote a flimsy recovery plan that Michael Matheson simply didn't follow or didn't expand upon. I'm quite happy for Neil Gray to use every policy within what we're proposing.
Labour says today's report highlights long-term failings.
We've seen services that are under such pressure, staff who require support aren't getting it, and we've seen SNP ministers who are just distracted by the sleaze and scandal of their own making.
The Scottish Government says it remains committed to reducing waits for planned and emergency care, and further reform is needed.
Well, Ewan joins us now. So a full in-tray for the new Health Secretary, Ewan. What will his priorities be?
Well, Neil Gray has taken on arguably the toughest brief within Cabinet, and there are a number of issues competing for his attention. Waiting times, staffing issues, delayed discharge. Then there's the agenda for change, looking at staff conditions, which still needs to be signed off by ministers. There are pay negotiations due to be completed in April, which haven't even started yet. So these are really basic issues that need to be addressed before moving on to any future plans for the NHS. And when it comes to that IFS report today, yes, productivity levels fell along the similar lines to elsewhere in the UK, but it's more marked here because the funding and staffing levels have grown at a slower rate. That means that the NHS here could have a greater struggle to return to pre-pandemic levels.
All right, many thanks for that, Ewan. An online petition has been launched calling for children who die as a result of crimes in Scotland to be given permanent anonymity. It's backed by families who have lost a child to murder.
They say keeping the name private will help them protect other children in the family. But lawyers warn such a change could inadvertently help people who kill be kept anonymous too. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
When Brianna Jai was murdered in Cheshire last year, the 16-year-old's name and face became known everywhere. At the moment, it's routine for details of people who are killed to be in the public domain, however old they were. But a group of parents who've lost children through criminal acts is pushing for Scottish law to be changed, keeping them anonymous.
It was out there from day dot, and I couldn't even go and do my normal shopping. That I'm getting stopped in the middle of a supermarket, getting asked questions about my child's death. Well, my other surviving child's present there, who doesn't have a clue at this point, because she didn't.
And that's just strangers doing that?
That's strangers, yeah, that's people you don't know.
So what difference do you think having this change would make?
Your life is never normal when something like this happens to you. It's never normal again. But we would have not been denied that chance to try and find a new normality, and that's exactly what we've been hit with.
From time to time, you'll hear people like me standing in places like this telling you that someone involved in a criminal case can't be named because of their age. What's being discussed now is the prospect of extending those restrictions more widely and potentially forever.
You know, you can be a child who's a victim of assault, for example, and you're kept anonymous. But if you then die as a result of that assault, that's when your name gets released, and that's what we think is wrong. Families should have a choice about that.
A bill currently going through Parliament is looking at the level of anonymity for children in the justice system, but lawyers warn extending it to murder victims could have unintended consequences.
It's a sad fact that most children who are murdered by their own parent or a close relative. If children who had been murdered were to be anonymised, it would follow that their parents could not be identified, as in their murderers could not be identified either, for fear of identifying the child. It may also follow that details of the case and evidence heard would not be able to be published because those details may inadvertently identify the child.
And the body representing news publishers in Scotland has concerns too.
It would not stop the Wild West, that is social media. You know, the contempt of court is committed on a virtually an hourly basis by members of the public who don't know that what they're doing is an offence, and nor are they ever pulled up about it, or very rarely are they pulled up about it. What this would do is further reduce the freedom of an already very heavily regulated media sector.
The Scottish Government says its Children's Care and Justice Bill aims to strike a balance between protecting children and the principles of open justice. We understand there's little chance of anonymity being extended to murder victims. Campaigners, though, insist they won't give up. Gordon Cree, STV News.
To other stories, and a woman has been taken to hospital after being attacked by a dog in South Lanarkshire. The incident happened this morning in the Silver Trees area of Bothwell. The victim was walking her puppy when she was set upon by what eyewitnesses describe as a bulldog breed. Police say inquiries are ongoing.
If it is a bully dog, I'd like to see the ban brought forward as soon as possible. It should have been muzzled actually, had the ban been in place. So, and really I'd like to see owners look after their dogs better than they seem to be doing.
In terms of the community, obviously it can have a scaring effect on people when they think maybe next time they go out to walk their dog, they're also going to get attacked.
Police Scotland has set up a dedicated team to investigate complaints into the failed law firm McClure Solicitors and is inviting former clients to get in touch if they feel they've been affected. A campaign group met with the force today to register the complaint of criminal activity against the former firm, particularly of fraud in regard to their family protection trusts. McClure went into administration 2 years ago, and campaigners say up to 90,000 people may still be unaware they're affected.
It is going to cost the clients of McClure's somewhere approaching £200 million to resolve the problems associated with it. What's more, many of the clients are finding that the properties they put into trust are no longer owned by them and are effectively in the hands of professional trustees who have not met their obligations, and the value of the assets that are in trust nationally exceeds £17.5 billion.
Lulu says her next tour will be her last. The 75-year-old Eurovision winner says she'll carry on working, but wants to do it differently in the future. Her run of farewell gigs celebrating 60 years in show business start in her home city, Glasgow, in April. The rollout of Glasgow's new fleet of subway carriages is ramping up. 17 new and modern trains are replacing the 12 existing ones, which have been on the route since the late 1970s. Their age means they are increasingly prone to breaking down. STV News gained exclusive access to the SPT depot where work in the fleet is being completed. Fraser Nicholl reports.
A glimpse into the future of the world's third oldest subway. The Broomloan Depot has been housing the city's underground trains here in Govan since 1896 and is now home to a new generation.
Well, this is what you might know a Glasgow subway train to look like. This model has been on the network since 1979, but we're just going to take a step out into the maintenance depot where there's a mix of the old model and the new model, and we're just going to step onto one of the new trains, one of 17 that's going to be on the network throughout 2024. What's changed? Well, there's a new seat design for one thing. It's much brighter, flashier, much quieter when it's on the network itself. Fully wheelchair accessible, fully air conditioned, and they've opened it right up, meaning you can walk from one end of the train to the other.
Two are already out on the tracks and are proving popular with passengers.
Yeah, it's cool. It's big, futuristic.
It just looks much fresher, and the seats are all lovely and clean and not kind of sinking in the middle, basically.
There's no doors. It's just like one continuous, wee bit brighter, I suppose.
I think they're amazing. They seem a lot faster, seem more efficient, the doors close quicker, nice, bright and kind of open.
It's super smart. I'm a big fan of the screens because quite often I find myself a bit like, where am I? I'm quite new to Glasgow as well.
They're very nice, very swoosh. Yeah.
Just reminded us of the London Underground.
Back at the depot, work continues to complete the rest of the fleet. Originally built in Switzerland, 17 trains will be rolled out in total between now and the summer.
No, it's really great to see them finally in passenger service. It's been a long journey to get here. Lots of technical work, good hard work by the team to get the trains designed, built, tested, fault-free running, and now to finally see them in service and the public using them is really great to see. Yeah.
Transglide, brand new trains at brand new stations on the brand new underground.
The last upgrade came with a formal reopening from the Queen in 1979. The trains from that time have served the network for decades, but have been increasingly struggling with delays and breakdowns.
They've served the region brilliantly for 43 years. It's an incredible service life, and I think testament to that is the level of interest that people have in terms of what's going to happen to those trains. The first ones will likely start to be used for spare parts. Some of them will be, we hope, taken on by local museums to act as a bit of a feature, which is really exciting, but then others will then essentially go through a process whereby they'll be decommissioned and taken away.
The new trains are the first step in a wider plan to modernise the subway, costing £288 million.
So the next big task is to introduce the new control systems, which is arguably the more complicated, difficult part of the project. We now need to introduce a new signalling system, new communication system, and that will in future allow the trains to be driverless as well.
We're wanting to be in a position to provide an enhanced and more flexible service. Things like Sunday opening hours, we're definitely working towards longer operating hours on the Sunday, but equally through the rest of the weekend and the week as well.
More of the trains will be introduced in the coming weeks, and after years of planning, it will mark a big step towards the future of the city's subway system. Fraser Nichol, STV News, Glasgow.
Raman here with the sport. Scotland playing France in the rugby. How do you fancy their chances?
That was awful.
Yes.
Easy. Good evening to you all. Ahead of Scotland's Six Nations showdown with France, co-captain Rory Darge says there's no better game for him to return from injury to lead his country. Our reporter Jamie Borthwick is at Murrayfield ahead of tomorrow's sellout match. Jamie.
Yes, right, man. Scotland certainly got pulses racing last weekend, perhaps a little bit too much, as they very nearly surrendered a 24-point lead away to Wales. However, they did cling on and secure that victory and set up what should be a fascinating match-up with France here tomorrow. Scotland have got a good recent record in this fixture, particularly at home. France arrive here stung by defeat in their opening weekend, and they're also without their captain Antoine Dupont. But the French fans, they always travel in good numbers and good voice, and despite the wind and rain around the city, they've been generating a superb atmosphere. The France team is in Edinburgh looking to kick-start their Six Nations, and their fans have travelled in numbers for the big match.
It's going to be hard for the French team because of the weather, because of you're used to play in this kind of conditions. It's going to be hard.
Oh, it doesn't matter. We came from Normandy. It's the same weather.
I think your friends are going to win.
Why?
Because we are better. Yeah, better than the Scottish. Oh, for sure.
We lost last time, so we have to have a revenge, you know.
We are in Scotland, and I hope they will win, so we'll party afterward.
Rory Darge returns to co-captain Scotland alongside Finn Russell. The Glasgow Warriors back row has been sidelined since December with a knee injury.
Well, I think I've just been trying my best to get back as quickly as I can and in as good condition as I can. But now that I'm back for this, I'm obviously delighted. Like, it's not many better games. I made my debut in the Six Nations 2 years ago against Wales, but then, like you say, the first game at Murrayfield against France, it's one of the ones you really want to play in. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Scotland clung on for victory in Cardiff last week, but they're hoping to prove that second half collapse against Wales was a one-off. France, meanwhile, were soundly beaten at home by Ireland. Fabien Galtier's men are in Edinburgh for their fourth test match against the Scots in the last 12 months.
All our players are very aware of what they're capable of, the game plan they like to go to, and the opportunities that we have. We've had some cracking games with them in the last 12 months, and we'll have to be at our best level physically. But we know it could be an open game. We do have one eye on the weather, but the games we played in the past with them have opened up, which suits the strengths of our players.
There's plenty of familiarity between these two teams, but Scotland versus France is never a dull affair. Jamie Borthwick, STV News.
Philippe Clement says he's happy Willie Collum is the referee for Rangers' Scottish Cup tie against Ayr United, insisting you've got to leave the past in the past. The Ibrox club had called for Collum not to officiate in their games after the Old Firm derby in December. Well, the fifth round of the Cup gets underway tonight when Morton hosts Motherwell.
There's a rich history with this football club in the Scottish Cup. I think it's about as difficult a tie as you're going to get, because the expectation quite clearly goes on to Motherwell being the Premiership side, but you're coming up against a really good, well-organised team.
We fear no one at the minute, and it's one of them cup game, have a go at it. There's no free hits because we don't believe in that. We believe we can compete with anybody. So on our day, I don't think they'll enjoy coming to St Mirren. So hopefully we can give them a right good game.
We know we need to bring our A game into the next game because you can't sustain it. You can't not play well in many games and expect to win. So for us, the work over these next few days is to look to bring our A game.
It's about showing quality, showing mentality, showing respect for their qualities also. I think the best example was last night. Monaco went out of the cup against the second division team yesterday evening. So those are not things that I want to see happen here.
I'll help them out as much as I possibly can, but once they go on the park, my voice is not going to be heard. So they need to make sure that they're organised, we're well drilled. The squad that I'll be there, I'll be looking forward to the occasion.
In all honesty, since I've been at the club, I've had, I think there was 3 or 4 years where we made 4 semi-finals, 2 cup finals. The missing piece is winning it. I probably couldn't remember the last 16 of the quarter-finals of some of them, but they're massively important.
Prepare for a tough game on Saturday away at Inverness. You know, it's an opportunity for us to put in another performance. It's nice to get a couple of boys sort of back from long-term injuries into the squad, you know, as well as, you know, 7 players coming in and 7 out. That's a lot of change.
I've had a few good cup runs as an underdog, a non-league team, and then I've had a few good cup runs, you know, as the one that should win it. So it'll be difficult. There's no easy game in the cup when they come this far.
It's a big occasion again for us. We've had a few over the years now, and you know, you look back to probably the last one in the Scottish Cup. The biggest one we had was obviously at Tynecastle against Hibs, when it was a great occasion and everyone turned out. And you know, it's a big following that's going up to Aberdeen on Saturday, and all looking forward to the game.
And in the other 5th round ties, Kilmarnock are at home to Cove Rangers, while Partick Thistle face Livingston. Steve Clarke says Scotland have been drawn with 3 fantastic opponents in the Nations League. The Scots campaign kicks off at home to Poland in September before travelling to Portugal. The following month it's a trip to Croatia, then Portugal come to Hampden. In November, Scotland welcome Croatia to the National Stadium, and the final match is away to Poland. And that, folks, is all your sport tonight. Have a great weekend.
Well, Anne, thank you. Now, she's known as the Queen of Daytime TV, and now Lorraine Kelly is adding novelist to her vast CV with her first work of fiction, The Island Swimmer.
Ahead of her book tour this weekend, our entertainment reporter Laura Boyd spoke to Lorraine about the writing process.
Presenter, reporter, journalist, podcaster, and now author. Well,
gosh,
your first novel.
Well, I guess, and Laura, I've wanted to do this for such a long time, and I've never really, you know, I've always sort of made the excuse of, oh, you know, I'm working, I'm doing this and doing that, and I thought to myself, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So last year I was pretty ruthless. I just kind of carved out big chunks of time, and I had the story buzzing about in my head, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been the most difficult thing I've had to do, I think, but the most satisfying.
The Island Swimmer, we should say it's called, first of all. Where did the idea for it come from?
Well, I think I was always going to write about Orkney because I love it. It's one of my favourite places in the world. I've been going there since the 80s and still haven't seen everything. But it's such a rich place, you know, culturally it's so rich. I wrote it all, then delivered it. And then, of course, you've got to polish it and get it all sorted. But yeah, I just hope people like it. That's really what I hope.
What it made me do was fall in love with Orkney, and I've
so
never
bad.
been.
You've not been to Orkney?
I want to go to that chapel. With
I'm taking you immediately. Oh, for goodness sake.
You have done wonders for the Orkney Tourist Board, honestly.
I can see myself living there, but living there all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to do that eventually.
Yeah.
It would be my happy place.
I can't believe it's 41 years
no.
on our TV.
It's ridiculous.
How do you feel when you look back on that and you hear that number?
I don't know, 40 years since, you know, in breakfast TV, but I can't even begin, it doesn't feel like that at all. I still feel as if I'm just learning, you know, and every day is a school day. I learn something new every day. You know, I'm a very curious person. I like to find out things. Some might say nosy. I prefer to say curious.
Curious is good.
I think I prefer to say curious. But yeah, it's incredible, actually. It is amazing, and I still love it.
And there's more from Lorraine on What's on Scotland here on STV at 7 o'clock tonight. Right now, though, let's take a look at the weekend weather with Sean.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Today we've been going through the transition period between the colder air, the blue colours there, and the milder air coming in from the south, a little shade of green, even a wee shade of yellow on the map. Now, before you go rushing away to the shorts and t-shirt drawer, leave it just for another couple of months. Could be some colder weather again towards the end of the month into March. Keep an eye on that. But for the time being, at least milder air coming in for the weekend. And by that, I mean temperatures returning to roughly where they should be for the time of year, around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius by day. Now, still quite breezy out there tonight, and by jinx, it's been feeling cold out in that wind today, hasn't it? Especially further east towards Grangemouth, Falkirk and Kincardine, across Fife. That wind coming straight in from the North Sea, so feeling chilly. Now, we hang on to a lot of cloud tonight, outbreaks of rain still, but the temperatures, look at that, no -4, -5 on the map. It is +4s on the map tonight, so it will be milder, but still not feeling mild with that wind around. Now, tomorrow we're going to hang on to dull weather through much of the day. There'll be shower outbreaks of rain, probably the worst of it through the first half of the day. Later on in the afternoon it fizzles out. Now, it's not going to be overly heavy, it's just going to be one of those days you look out the window and you think, yuck, it's a bit misty, the rain will be on and off, light and patchy through much of the day, a little bit misty at times, especially over higher ground. Temperatures 6, 7 degrees Celsius. They're on that slow rise. I don't think it's going to be so nice though on Sunday, because we'll see more persistent rain coming in from the west. Some of it could be heavy. Temperatures by then back up to about 8 or 9 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally tonight, preparations for Chinese New Year are underway as billions of people around the world get ready to welcome in the Year of the Dragon.
Celebrations here will be marked with families coming together for meals, decorating homes with lanterns and taking part in dragon dances. Here's Laura Piper.
At this centre in Glasgow, celebrations for a new year are already underway, with the focus on family, friends and good food.
It's the most important day for the Chinese people on the calendar. The Chinese New Year is the most important festival. It's very exciting. It's all about the time of gathering, blessing, and good food, good time. Everyone gets together, celebrate our culture and heritage.
Tomorrow marks the beginning of a new lunar year and a new animal in the Chinese zodiac.
2024 is the year of the dragon, the only mythical creature among the zodiac animals.
It's a symbol that features prominently in literature and art throughout China.
So it represents the strength, power, nobleness and success. I hope the year of the dragon brings good opportunities, good changes and gentle challenges.
To mark the new year, a whole range of events will take place over the next 2 weeks.
We've got Tai Chi, we've got Mandarin lessons, right through to a bilingual ceilidh and concerts in the Royal Botanic Gardens. People right across Scotland know about the Year of the Dragon, so it is so synonymous with Chinese culture and Chinese history. Xin Yin Kuai Le.
And a happy Year of the Dragon to all. Laura Piper, STV News.
Happy Year of the Dragon indeed. That's all from us. Thank you for watching.
Good night.
Good night.